Hi there, this is Professor Andy Yap, and we're doing INSEAD's 7 Questions With. Well, behavioral scientists are people who study people. Essentially, I'm a social and organizational psychologist. I study the way people behave, the way people think, the way people make decisions in organizations, as well as many other social settings. I have 2 main streams of research. My earlier stream of research involves what we call the psychology of power, status, and social hierarchy. We know from decades of work that how powerful you feel, how powerful you think, how much power you really have, or where you sit on the hierarchy, that changes the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act and make decisions. And we know in our daily lives that people with power has a huge effect on our outcomes. So it's very important to understand, one is, how do powerful people behave? Why do they behave in that way? And when you have power, how can power transform how you think? My second line of research involves something we call person perception, which is just a fancy word for mind reading. Well, many people think that mind reading involves staring into someone's eyes because the eyes are the windows to the soul. But in reality, mind reading involves reading your body. Now, not in a creepy way, reading the body language, because the body reveals a lot about what the mind thinks. But you need to be very accurate at reading that. So it involves a lot of practice, understanding of not just the individual, the history of the individual, but also the person's culture. Because culture determines what forms of body language is appropriate and what forms of body language may be inappropriate in that one culture. Leaders need to know how to read minds, because leaders are leaders only because you have followers. And to get people to follow you, the first thing you need to do is not to persuade them. The first thing you need to do is to understand them, to be able to read them. What do they want? What are their fears? What are their desires? And from then, once you know what they want, you know what to use, what kind of persuasion strategies to do to incorporate so that you can persuade them to follow you. So power is a very complex construct. I'm sure you have heard that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, there is some evidence for that, but you must also have heard that power may reveal. To test a person's character, give the person power. There's politics in every organization. If you don't see politics, it means you're blind to it. Politics in general happens when people have different goals, or different values, or people just have differences in general. And when these differences loom larger and people form alliances and form supporters, they get supporters, that's when politics happen. Now, this happens in every team and every organization. The goal for leaders is not about navigating or trying to build an organization that doesn't have politics, but how do you deal with politics, manage politics in a healthy and ethical way? Now, conflict is not always bad. We know that conflict can inspire people to come up with new creative ideas and novelty. And I think conflict and politics is something that you always see in any organization. It's all about how you manage them well. The C word, communicate. Communicate, 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 and communicate effectively. Many people think that communication is all about the mouth, is what you say. But really, what you want to spend some time to develop your communication skills is to focus on the brain. Well, I'm sure you have this experience whereby you go to your boss and you pitch an idea to your boss, and then someone else comes along, pitches virtually the same idea, and your boss says, that person's idea is better than yours. Well, it's not about what you say, but how did you frame things that make your ideas stick in people's minds? So what I often tell leaders to do is, don't just think about what you say, think about how you frame things to pitch your ideas better. Through executive presence. Executive presence involves your body language. Because many a times it's not just what you say that counts, how you say things matter. Your posture, the gestures you use, your facial expressions, the energy from your voice, all of these things constitute something we call executive presence. So here's an example. Let's say you're going to buy a car, and a salesperson comes up to you and say, I hope you buy this car. It's a very good car. I hope you don't buy it, because clearly this person is not really interested in selling this car to you. Maybe the car is really not that good. Or someone comes up to you and say, oh, I hope you buy this car. It's a really good car. Now, This person is overselling. This person is overly enthusiastic. I mean, the car must have some problems. So your body language or your executive presence can reveal to people what the person is thinking. Now, as a leader, executive presence is extremely important because that's how people perceive you, how people judge you. And so your body language or your executive presence reveal many of these cues to people, whether people judge you as a competent person from the way you interact with them, from your confidence that you show, whether people perceive you to be likable, warm, and that determines whether people are inspired by you. With so much volatility we see today, social unrest, political volatility, economic uncertainties, leaders need to be quick on their feet. We call it leaders need to be agile. But more importantly, leaders need to not just learn new things. In fact, I always encourage leaders to first unlearn some things, then relearn them. And why? Because what took you here, what was effective that took you here today and made you successful today, may not help you get there. And so you need to start relooking at your landscape, relooking at the knowledge base that you have, learn, but unlearn first and relearn. So Aristotle once said, the more we learn how little we know. So I encourage leaders to keep learning, keep unlearning, and keep relearning. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you gained some insights on how to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And again, relearn and unlearn. You learn a lot and learn a lot. Goodbye.